He literally, not only did he apologize to me, but he apologized publicly to me in front of the whole class. And so the conversation, we're talking about leadership. And I think leadership begins with oneself, self perception, and who you are and how you show up. And while there was fire burning inside of me, and I will tell you, to be fully transparent, there was a bit of embarrassment, right? As a woman and as a Black woman and fighting through stereotypes every day, there was an embarrassment for me. But then I said, this shouldn't be an embarrassment for you. This should be an embarrassment for him. So don't you own that. And so navigating all that in a matter of seconds, right? My stuff, his stuff, the stuff that's happening in the room, and probably the embarrassment that was happening to everyone else who was reading the list.
Welcome to 99 Humans. My name is Jeff Lakusta, curious coach and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, striving to understand how little things generate big impact.
And I'm Nadia, Carta, tech executive and lifestyle coach with a mission to transform lives and corporations by kindling hearts to generate a zeal for life.
Each week, we investigate stories about the human side of leadership to re-energize your spirit and help you become a stronger leader.
Because the reality is that leadership is messy, goofy, challenging, but always human.
Thanks for spending time with us today. Let's dive in.
All right. Well, it's so good to see you, S Renee.
You too, Jeff. You too.
I'm really very honored that you would spend time with 99 Humans with me. It's been a while since we saw each other face to face. And when I was putting together kind of what's the best way to introduce you, I have to be honest that it's hard to wrangle the incredible accomplishments and things that you have done in your life. And that's why I'm glad that we have a whole conversation to talk through it, because you have been a business leader in a ton of illustrious positions, including driving Amazon's leadership and executive development programs. You've been a longtime coach. You're the literal author of Self-Esteem for Dummies, which I think has got to be one of the coolest things to know someone who's written a For Dummies book. And those are amazing accomplishments, but I think it would be wrong not to acknowledge the amazing work and contributions that you continue to make in furthering diversity, equity, inclusion for women and others in the workplace. Both, and this is, I think, very important, by your emulation of being in the fire, being in the fight each day, and also in your direct work with media, nonprofits, scholarship funds, and so much more. But you are both contributing from the community and emulating for people what it really looks like to be out there making space. So thank you again for joining 99 Humans. Very, very happy. And I'd love to kick off, we met at a coaching certification program.
Yes.
And that was a very fun experience. I was so delighted to get to build that relationship starting there. But there was actually kind of an interesting experience that you had as a part of what was meant to be a casual, fun, full multi-day learning experience, and turned out to be much bigger than that. And I'd love if you don't mind kind of sharing your perspective on what happened with that moment.
Yeah. Real good. So first, you're exactly right, Jeff. It was a fun, easy, I think it was 4 or 5 days of training for a coaching certification. And in the facilitator, or as a result of the facilitator creating this space for people just to be themselves and to contribute, there was someone there from a very popular bank who decided that, well, let me give you a little bit more background, who also loved music and decided that he was going to put together a playlist that identified or described or best represented each person that was at the event based on his perception. So the list comes out, and as everybody's really excited. You're going down the list looking for your name. And I was ecstatic. I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was fun. And then I saw my name and I saw the name of the song. And the name of the song was BITCH, Boss. So immediately it caused me to pause and to think, who would in a professional environment put that out there? So I decided that I was going to Google the song so I could see the lyrics and see what was the connection there. So as everybody's buzzing about their song, That Girl Is on Fire and all the other great songs, I'm reading lyrics to this song, BITCH, Boss. And I'm thinking, how did he equate me with this song? There's nothing about who I am that shows up in that space. So I began to feel the fire within. Right.
Understandable, yes.
The fire. And I thought to myself, what do I want to do with this? And so I inboxed him only. And I said, hey, nice playlist, but I'm kind of curious about why you assigned me the song BITCH, Boss. And he says, oh, I was just thinking you're really, you get things done. I could tell you could make things happen, etc. So I said to him, while I appreciate that compliment, I'm very uncomfortable, in fact, insulted by your assessment. Because the lyrics don't indicate that at all, and neither does a woman. And I had never heard of Doja. I guess that's our cat. That's how you pronounce it. Had never heard of her, dancing around and all the stuff that she sang. And so he says, oh, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. And I said, oh, well, I can appreciate that. But I really want you to know that not only that it's inappropriate to call any woman outside her name or to identify her that way. And this is all texting. So the class is going on and me and this individual are texting, right? And I am present to the fact that this individual doesn't have enough self-awareness as well as professional business acumen to connect with what I'm saying. Mm. And so I said, I just want you to know that just should never have been done or never should be done. He literally, not only did he apologize to me, but he apologized publicly to me in front of the whole class. And so the conversation, we're talking about leadership. And I think leadership begins with oneself, self-perception, and who you are and how you show up. And while there was fire burning inside of me, and I will tell you, to be fully transparent, there was a bit of embarrassment, right? As a woman and as a Black woman and fighting through stereotypes every day, there was an embarrassment for me, but then I said, this shouldn't be an embarrassment for you. This should be an embarrassment for him. So don't you own that. And so navigating all that in a matter of seconds, right? My stuff, his stuff, the stuff that's happening in the room, and probably the embarrassment that was happening to everyone else who was reading the list.
Yeah. This moment is one that I actually think really helped me in my own journey to watch what happened And then I remember reaching out and apologizing for not being a stronger ally,
Yeah.
because while it was powerful to watch, to not have acknowledged it and brought it to the surface directly was a miss on my part. And I think that hearing you reflect on that experience, which now is, a couple of years ago, actually,
Yeah.
it reminds me just how similar this must be to other experiences that you have. So you go, oh, I was navigating this and my own emotions, embarrassment, and then remembering, no, put it on. And then I'm pinging on the side and the class is going on, as you said. And to realize the emotional toll, the energy toll, the distractive toll of that engagement and our meeting, and then to think of the incredible career that you've had, the rooms, the boardrooms, the people that you've been in. I'm curious if I'm guessing right, that this is just another of a long list of things like this, reminiscent at least, of times that you've had to navigate things that other people don't have to navigate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think for me, Jeff, I've learned to ignore the majority of it, but also learn to balance it and decide, when do you address it? And how do you address it? And how do you influence the other person in such a way that they feel comfortable in addressing it? Because had I responded in a way that made him feel bad about who he is and his intention, it might not have been a public apology.
Mm.
It would have been an enemy. And I think that in an interview years ago, I talk about how politics makes us better. And, especially in a time like this where we're talking a lot about how diversity, equity, inclusion is so critically important and that people are really tired. For me, and I just had an incident at a very prestigious school where I brought to the professor attention a module that I thought wasn't healthy. And in that 15, 17-minute conversation, fortunately, he was open-minded enough to hear me, to see me, and know that what I was saying really did matter. And so, to your point, yes, you're constantly training and developing people who you think should know better, but don't. And I will say, to their credit, they circled back and said, we're removing that piece, and we're removing the discussion. And so, yes, I have been in the seat of being an ally for myself, but also know that there's somebody else who's coming behind me that I need to be also responsible to and for, as I advocate for myself. I'm also advocating for others and their workplace experience.
Could you unpack that moment of when you decide to speak up a little bit more? Because you've literally written the book on assertiveness, and you radiate such confidence that I find to be inspiring. And also as a student, somebody going, okay, what is S Renee doing? How do I get better at this? Because you are quite gifted at this, and it's obvious in spending just a few minutes with you that this is a real skill. But help me understand, what does that look like? Because it's interesting to hear you describe both situations where there is a little bit of back and forth. It sounds like it's not an instant habit like, riding a bicycle. There's still a decision point. How do you navigate that moment and decide, okay, I'm going to do something?
Yeah, great question. So each situation was different. So when you look at the moment at the coaching certification process, it was an instant where you have to make a decision. on, first of all, you have to acknowledge where you are, and you have to acknowledge what you're feeling, and you have to know self-awareness, right? But then you also have to believe in the human experience, that we all are fallible, and that we all have blind spots, and that in most cases there is good intention. And I really believe that about people. I believe that people are well intentioned. And so for the certification, where I had to respond immediately, my heart not only supported me, but also was open enough to understand that he needed supporting, right? And yes, that is some quick thinking, but at the core, it's about values. What do you value? How do you see yourself? How do you see others? And how do you see the world? I don't look at the world through rose-colored glasses, but I do look at the world in believing that the majority of people are good, and that the majority of people mean well and are well-intended. Yeah. And so my unpacking may not require as much as someone else's, right? Because of my view of myself and others in the world. The other situation with the university took a little more unpacking, because I'm thinking, you are a world leader. You sit on many seats and in many situations. How can you miss this? So it required me to even consult my husband, who is a senior leader at the Pentagon. And he said to me, address it at the end of the session. Go through the process and then address it at the end. So in this instance, I'm holding on to something that every time I look at you, I'm thinking, is this intentional or unintentional? Is this, so I'm listening keenly to what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're going about doing it, and how inclusive you are. So in that situation, there's a lot of analytical stuff going on. And in the end, I literally, which is very seldom I do, but I knew I was talking to a not only senior leader, but a world-renowned leader. I wrote down what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it, and what specific order I wanted to say it, because I want to be clean, I want to be concise, and I want to be to the point. As a result, he had questions, follow-up questions, which means now I'm off script.
Which is wonderful and scary at the same time.
So I'm off script, but this is what I knew. I had set an intention for the conversation, and I knew that the intention was not to change him. The intention was to increase the awareness of what it meant, what the implications were, and how I felt and how other people could feel, look like me in that situation. And so no matter what the outcome was or would be, I was going to be okay, because I created the awareness. And fortunately, that awareness brought about change that I'm very thankful for.
Well, I think that's an incredible story. And I want to underline that piece of practice that you injected there. Wrote it down, organized your thoughts, practiced it. Personally, I think I forget that amazing leaders, amazing people are still practicing hard and preparing. And there's a point where if I only see them on stage or, in quotes, doing their thing, well, that's when they're always rocking it. But behind the scenes, there's still a lot of preparation. There's a lot of practice. And I think that's such a validating, empowering thing to remember, because I still need to practice, for things like, okay, that's okay. Everybody's out there practicing for big moments that matter. The other piece that I heard you talk about, and I think it's interesting for a conversation about managing yourself, that you consulted your husband. And I think that's something that often gets forgotten, that managing yourself doesn't actually have to be a lonely experience. How do you get others involved in this process, and kind of what does your village of support look like?
Oh, great question. Great observation. I want to commend you on what you're picking up in the conversation, those very important points. So thank you for that. My inner circle looks like vice presidents, like at major corporations. My husband, who is a senior leader at the Pentagon. Um, so as you go up, the air does get thinner, right? There's very few people who you can consult, because there are things and people and that you are talking about that you don't want to get out among the public exactly all that you're saying. Let me share with you one point about that, why that is critically important. So I had an assistant that was traveling with me when I first started my career and my own business. And we were traveling to a university to speak, and we had a suite. She had her room, I had my room, and we're talking, and I had a mistake on a slide. And she said to me, "Oh, girl, one of these days, I am going to write a book on S Renee and what it means to travel with you and to correct your work."
Oh gosh.
Right? So I hired you for that purpose. And now you're telling me you're going to write a book about me? In that moment, it was evident to me and clear that you don't say certain things to certain people, and that you have to have the right inner circle who is willing to open up to you and share their challenges, and you coach them and they coach you. So vice presidents, people who own multi-million-dollar businesses. I always say, make sure you're talking with someone who has as much to lose as you do.
Wow, that's a great way to think about building that inner circle. Because I think you're right. It does get, it's lonely at the top, the air gets thinner. All of those phrases that sometimes are hard to understand do make sense and do end up coming to fruition. But it's also interesting because it seems like something that everyone at all stages of your journey, did you have the same support network, or was there a moment where you went, oh my gosh, if I don't do this intentionally, it's not going to exist?
Yeah. I'm fortunate enough to have a father and mother that are very wise. My mother is very spiritual, and my father also spiritual, but he was an entrepreneur and has learned to, as you can imagine, a man who's navigating a Black man who was a migrant worker, and ultimately says, I want to build a business, who's navigating a world alone, how much wisdom he's gained and how much knowledge. And so he was always generous and imparting knowledge to me. And I'm going to give you an example. You talked about the For Dummies book. Well, because of my own barriers and lack of self-confidence, I almost didn't take the book deal. And so I went around asking people about, should I take the deal? Should I take the deal? And I was intentional about asking people who knew nothing about it, right? I didn't go to my inner circle. So as I kept hearing, well, maybe not, I went to people who are really in my inner circle, right? Who said, oh, it would improve your career. They didn't say anything that I didn't already know. But my father said something very powerful. He said, baby, I don't know anything about the publishing field, and I know nothing about writing a book. But this is what I know for sure. If you take the contract, you're going to do a heck of a job writing that book. Because that's what I know about you. Wow. And so when just hearing those words, I was like, give me that contract. So It's also that person who that has that rod that can poke you in the back and help you to lean in and forward when you need to.
It's amazing because it sounds like he was able, as only a father can, to center you immediately with one sentence back on your values, which is also what you said made such a difference in those moments of, I'm going to speak up, I'm going to assert myself and try to make a difference here, was remembering, how do I make decisions based on my values? And there's a framework that I'm thinking of that it describes the difference of belief-based decision making, going through life going, I think this is true, so I'm going to do this. And sometimes the dangers that that can lead to versus that values-based life, where you go, what matters to me? Who am I? This is what I want to be. And it makes me curious because you've used that a few times. How have your values evolved or not evolved as your life and your accomplishments and what you're passionate about has changed? Has that been something that's always been rock solid for you, or has that evolved over time?
Great question. It's been pretty solid, and here's why. I believe that I've been sent to this universe to inspire people, to help them to elevate their thinking so that they can elevate their life.
Mm.
And as a result of that, how I make decision is based on, can I inspire this person to become more self-aware, to think differently, and to ultimately change their life? Because this is my belief. If I do my work and I do my work well, this world is going to get better because somebody else is going to be better, because they're going to look back and say, she showed me grace. She showed me an understanding. I'm inspired by her life. And thereby, I want to show someone else grace, and they're going to inspire somebody. And it's going to go from person to person, because so many people had grace for me, inspired me to be who I am.
That's beautiful. Do you have tips for us on people out there like me who want to go out and live a similar passion, inspire others, give grace to others? What does that look like on the day-to-day for you and how you live your life? How can I emulate that? How could someone listening do that?
Yeah, I think it first starts with a decision on who you want to be and how you want to show up. You have to know why you're on the planet. And that has to be your call to action every day. So whether you're on stage or you're in the post office, someone can look at you and you share with them a smile, an encouraging word, whatever it is. So no matter where your feet walk, whatever path or wherever you are, you have to know the purpose in which you're there. That's number one. Number two, it's about setting intention. That today is the day, not what the work I did yesterday, the work that you will do today on yourself first, and then what you're going to do in order to contribute to somebody else's life. And I think third is doing the reflective work at the end of the day. Whose life did I really make better? So yeah, I set the intention. Yeah, I have the belief system, but how are you measuring whether or not you're doing what you promised yourself you were going to do, and the commitment that you made to, whether you say God or Allah or whatever you believe in, the universe, that commitment that you made, that you are living up to it. And I think that when you do those three things, and that and here it is, you're not as concerned about the outcome. You're more concerned about the input, because they determine the output. You determine the input. Just as that young man who decided that BITCH, boss, was a label for me, and I decided to make it a private conversation. Because of the right input, there was a dynamic, positive output that every person in the room could see, hear, and understand how to show up better. And I think that that's what this is really all about.
Incredibly inspiring, and it feels so true. It also feels so hard, that is a kind of it's something that is easy to forget, to feel down, to get exhausted on that journey. How do you rejuvenate yourself? Since I'm sure it's not win after win after win, there's sometimes you're going to take it on the chin. What does it look like to go through that journey and stay energized for that purpose despite the challenges that you face?
Yeah. So remember I said you have to work on yourself first,
Yeah.
right? So you cannot, if you're empty, you can't put anything out, and you're frustrated and you're irritated, and don't make no mistake about it. I've had my moments too where right, I haven't done my work. So in the mornings for me, I like to go walking, unless it's really hot or really cold, and then I work out inside, and the experience isn't as great. Sometimes I'll go out on my deck for 10 or 15 minutes, but it's really about how do I connect, and everybody connects differently. Connect to yourself, connect to that greater force that you believe is out there supporting you, moving you forward, sustaining you, holding you up. Tapping into that and knowing that all of who I am can show up in each and every moment throughout the day. And that people are not as intentional as you are.
Mm.
A lot of times they don't even give thought, right? So, for an example, we're walking, and there are some people, Jeff, I will tell you, they're almost like in another world. Yesterday, it rained a little bit, and I'm walking, and there's a lady. She has an umbrella, and she's walking down. We're about to pass each other, and her head is down, her eyes are down, and I said, "You were smart. You had an umbrella." And the moment I said that, a big smile. You could just see the light just burst, and it just opened up this feeling of confidence that I make good decisions. Something simple. And
Wow.
so, even though we think about this, not only did she, but what did it do for me?
Hmm.
To see her pick her head up, have a broad smile, and know that she's a great decision maker.
It's such an amazing example because there's tons of moments like that. But sometimes I'm the person looking down on my phone doing something. And the other morning, I went to Starbucks, and I actually was kind of thinking about a gratitude journal and was thinking about that. And so I waited a little extra long and held the door for somebody. And I got a similar reaction. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And we had like a short exchange. But to see the spark of connection that happens when you just bring a little intention to a small everyday activity like going to get a coffee, that's a beautiful world. And back to your point of that intention inspiring others, making the world an actual better place. I love that you use that small umbrella example amongst all the amazing things that we've talked about. That, yeah, that's true. There are opportunities countless throughout the day if we can remember, which is kind of the hard part, that that's who we want to show up as we go out into the world.
Yeah. As you're talking, the image that comes to mind, you may have seen, there's an image of somewhat a Buddha. And they may not be called Buddhas, but they are followers of the Buddhist religion. And I forget what they're called, but they're the ministers of. And they say a candle doesn't lose its spark to light another one. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I love that. That sounds, yeah, spot on.
But and that is what this journey is really about, is that when I light someone else, I still maintain my power and inspire someone else, but also her spark gave back to me. So it was like spark, spark, spark.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what, so and I had a pep in my step because I knew that I saw the shift.
Yeah. It's a gift to be able to not just acknowledge someone, but to acknowledge them in a way that builds confidence, acknowledge that's the real practice work. It could be a smile, or it could be you make good decisions, and to see someone come alive for something a little more specific is really, I think, a special part of this.
Yeah.
So, S Renee, with this amazing passion that you have, what are you excited about right now that you're working on?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm excited that I'm working on the Leaders Career Accelerator. It's going to be a hub where people can come and get information to accelerate their career. We do know that once you get in your 40s, 40, 50, you've been in your career for about 20 years. Really, it's about leadership. It's about executive presence. It's about influential leadership. It's about persuasive communication. It's about those skills that unfortunately we may not have learned along the way. It's about slowing down, taking a breath, and knowing that when you do, that when you show up in all of who you are, but not there to convince anybody, but there to make a positive impact on everybody that's in the room. Uh, that's that's where it's at. And so for me, I'm real excited about that new project. I'm excited about the online programming that is being created. I'm excited about the partnerships, certainly excited about the executive coaching that I'm doing. I'm excited about the contracts that are coming in that are asking me to build coaching processes for people. Just, you know what, and most importantly, I'm excited. As I said, someone reached out from a major corporation and said, "Hey, you're the person, and would you consider, et cetera." And I said, "It sounds like an opportunity to make an impact." I said, "A positive impact. Of course, I'm interested."
Yeah. Well, you are certainly doing a lot of that. Is this program that you're describing something that anybody could join, or is this part of a specific company, a specific group? How could I access something like that? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so working on getting it online. I'm hoping to get it online October, early
Okay.
October. And yes, it's going to be open to the public. Obviously at a cost, but a reasonable cost where people can come and grow and have access and really understand what executive presence is, how to show up in it, how to be positive, how to maintain, how to teach, even when you don't want to teach, how to light the fire, but most importantly, how to manage and control your own fire
Mhm.
so that in that moment, when it's time to light someone else's candle, you can do it in love and light, and you can do it in a way that they can see, hear, and understand exactly what you're saying and are willing to make a change as a result of it.
Well, I'm excited. I will definitely be signing up when that's live.
Great.
We'll put in the show notes links to materials. But if folks want to reach out, want to connect with you, S Renee, what's the best way for them to connect?
Yep. Always on LinkedIn, S Renee, always on LinkedIn. Also, S Renee at srenee.com is my email. And then also by phone, 888-588-0423.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an amazing conversation. I can't wait to see what's coming, but also just always so inspired and so energized by conversations when we get to connect. So thank you again for making time.
I agree, Jeff. And certainly we have to stay even more connected than we do. So good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Great to see you. Bye.
Bye.